Hello, and welcome to the Black Mirror Oracle. Earlier, when I was scrying in the obsidian mirror, I got 3 images. The first image was a bouquet of dried yellow roses, and someone stepped on them. It's like they were on the ground. The second image was like a lunar eclipse, so I could see the moon go through the entire lunar eclipse cycle, but instead of being red, it was blue. And the third image was a drop of black ink into clear water, dispersing into the water. So we're going to keep those images in mind as we work through our oracle cards. And then at the end, we will do a channeled tarot reading. Two archetype cards. Okay. The scrying mirror is ancient and sacred, made of volcanic glass. I scry earlier in the day because opening the mirror is very sacred and personal, and it's not something we do on camera. Some people might, that's fine. No judgment. It's not something I do on camera. But I do share the images. I feel like today's reading is going to be love-based, and it's because of 2 things. I kept getting this feeling like, how do I describe it? Like, what does love feel like outside of longing? That's kind of the feeling I kept getting. And number 2, I can't stop thinking about a certain piece of advice one of my friends gave me. She said that she never fantasizes about another person that she's not in an active relationship with. And I was just thinking about how wise that is. And she doesn't mean like just intimately. She meant like she doesn't daydream about a future with them or fantasize. And boy, what a way to make sure that we're not projecting our stuff onto another person. So those have been on my mind today since scrying earlier. And therefore, we're going to keep those in mind as well as the images. The underworld. The mother. You know, this is fascinating because I did a recent alchemist mirror reading, and both of those came up as different doorways for pick a card. Archangel Raphael, provider of healing for mind, body, and spirit. Also very interesting, I recently started doing Archangel Raphael meditations to heal love wounds. Archangel Raphael, you can picture his light is like a green light flowing to your body, and he specifically heals heart wounds and love wounds. And your shadow cards are this mask card, which I'm pretty sure came up last week or within the last few weeks in the Black Mirror Oracle. And this card's been coming up a lot. I think that it has a lot to do with authority and feeling scared and stuck in your shell. Wisdom and setting sail. Okay. So, the underworld and the mother archetypes side by side in regards to love. To me, they represent the idea that the shadow is trying to express something about wounds, like core childhood wounds, usually often with the parents, that are like rotting away inside of you and need expression. And with the drop of ink in the water that I saw in the scrying mirror earlier, I'm getting a feeling of dispersing, right? So you think that if you press it down or you keep it kind of hidden, it'll just kind of, I don't know, like spread out enough that you won't have to deal with it. But you do find that it is interfering with the way that you love. And not because necessarily you do anything wrong or love incorrectly, but maybe you come into love with the childhood wounds of expectation. And so maybe you go into that feeling like love is supposed to be the way that you've witnessed it in movies, on TV, or in your real life, as a struggle, as you putting expectations on a partner that don't match reality because you're fantasizing about it so much, right? And it takes a lot of wisdom to let go of a relationship that you know is wrong for you, rather than trying to pressure someone to be somebody that they're not, right? Because when you do that, you do it with the best intentions, but because you see the best potential in a person. And when you see the best potential in a person, you think, oh, I can love them enough. I can see the best person that they could be. And when I see that, I'm going to give them the resources, I'm going to give them the help they need in order to do the healing. And then we can be together and we can be happy. But you realize that's a fantasy, right? You have fantasized who they could be instead of seeing who they are. And oof, boy, that's hard. That's a hard thing to feel, right? And it's not your fault. We get into relationships, I say, like, to match our core wounds because we want to replay the story and heal them. But we also get into relationships because we're looking for something in the other person that we haven't found in ourselves. And that's why I always am talking about self-love, self-healing, so that you can detach from the outcome or detach from the fantasy around love. And I would say with the Archangel Raphael coming up, especially because I was very recently given a very specific Archangel Raphael meditation around heart wounds, which is to picture him, like basically to invite him in and see his kind of green healing light around your heart space. And to heal these kinds of wounds, you have to dive into your shadow, into the underworld of your soul. And what it is that you're afraid what you're going to find there is rotten. And so that's why I think a lot of times people cling on to a relationship out of familiarity instead of letting go when part of them realizes it's not right. They just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And in the same way, a relationship where one person gives the silent treatment or runs away or that's a control issue. The silent treatment's a control thing. Avoidance is a control thing. It's about controlling the other person's emotions by withholding. It's also a control thing to try and fix another person so that they become the right partner for you. When really the right partner, you don't need to fix. They just come to you and click with you and have the right framework and attitude that matches yours. And to me, the way that looks is always being willing to adjust. So I'm seeing that image of roses, and roses, yellow roses are friendship. And so I get the feeling that in past relationships, you may have not built it on the friendship part first because your nervous system is used to struggle love or frantic love or intensity masked as love. So you mistake intensity for love because maybe it's what you've seen, and it's definitely what our society promotes when it comes to how love plays out in movies and things. And so we often see these wounds reflected in our parental or family members. And so anyway, we're afraid that someone's going to see the true us and then reject us. So a lot of times we settle for way lower than we deserve because we think somebody who would actually meet us where we are might reject us. And so we take someone who's not rejecting us by saying, oh, I want to be with you, but might be hurting us or mistreating us in other ways. And instead of accepting who they are, you're trying to change them into who you would hope they would be. And it's beautiful that you see this potential in people. I do the same thing, right? But that's where it comes back to my friend's advice about don't fantasize about people, right? Because when you fantasize about people, you start falling in love with your dream of who they are instead of who they actually are. And then you'll start ignoring actions and even eventually justifying actions that this person might do to you that hurts. Just because it's what you're used to seeing, so you think it's normal, you think it's okay. But I just want to let you know, it's not okay. Now the blue moon eclipse. I feel like true love based in friendship that also is very passionate. I always call it like the Gomez Morticia kind of love, right? Comes once in a blue moon. But I also feel like it's the eclipse aspect of the image I saw in the mirror had to do with the fact of like when you have the right person in the right framework, then it doesn't matter the changing of the seasons. It doesn't matter the changing of the moods. You guys have that framework together. One of you is not trying to be authoritarian over the other, whether it's someone who has avoidant attachment trying to control through withholding affection, or whether it's someone with anxious issues trying to play out the narrative of what the future should be and how the other person should heal. It's about accepting the person where they are and then deciding whether where they are and where you are actually compatible, not where you are and where they could be, right? Flow. You know, I have found as a person who was in a trauma bond dynamic in the past, I didn't realize how much of my energy was being pulled away until I got out. And I found I could do so much more, focusing all my energy on trying to help one person heal themselves so that they could rise up to the relationship. It took away my creativity. It took away, you get caught up in it and you forget that this is not okay and it's not your responsibility. And so if this is something that has been a pattern for you in the past, the mirror and all of this, it's challenging you to question that. And the best part is when you get out of that state and you get into flow where you're really in your own creative space, in your own creative energy, when that energy gets near you, you've already risen your vibration and it starts feeling real icky or real quick, right? And so that's where you can really trust yourself when you rewrite the pattern. And sometimes let me take a look at this. Peacock and these cards. And sometimes there's a little bit of a sadness around that because it was the dream of what you pictured love to be for so long. It is etched into your nervous system, is etched into your neural pathways. But when you rewrite those neural pathways, you're going to have just a lot better time for yourself. It's really difficult to do. So you're doing a great challenge. Let's see. Raise your standards. Oh my gosh. Peacock, raise your standards. Exactly. It's like what I said earlier, that are you going below the standard you deserve because of those inner wounds making you feel like you are not deserving of better? Or that you're afraid that you'll be rejected if your true self is exposed? But really, it's not going to work that way, right? You're not going to meet that person and be anxious about it. You're going to meet them and it's going to flow, right? It's going to flow. I would definitely encourage you, if you're into it, to do a love healing meditation on yourself, visualizing loving light around your heart. And even looking in a mirror and telling yourself how beautiful and wonderful you are, because these wounds have to do with not feeling good enough about yourself, right? Like not loving yourself. This card, there's a tree, and in the branches are clouds and planets, and in the roots are fish, and there's a man trying to chop this tree down. You contain multitudes. Don't let an incompatible partner chop your tree down. Think about all this beauty, all this wonder, all this divinity, all this creativity about to be chopped down with a careless axe. It doesn't mean you love that person less. It's just you're not always able to stay with those people, right? You might love them to pieces. But then later you might realize that it was really a reaching out, complementary wounds, right? They saw a wound in you. Usually, a lot of times, extreme sudden chemistry is more like the meeting of trauma wounds or the meeting of core childhood wounds. And I'm not saying that the love isn't real, because it's definitely real, but the love is overridden by these dysregulated emotions, right? I know that my readings can be really difficult, and I just want to let you know you're doing a great job, because if you're here and you watch this, then you're doing the hard work. A lot of people can't handle dealing with this deeper stuff, but you're here. So you clearly know that you're ready to heal, and that you want to break a pattern that has been destructive to you in the past. Now, we all know that when we end up with a person who doesn't treat us right, that they're responsible for the way that they're treating you. But you're also responsible for deciding if you're going to be treated that way, in the sense of like, and this is not blame at all, because we only rise to what our wounds will let us rise to till we heal them. But like people, there's this idea that you teach people how to treat you by what you allow. So if you're always so flexible, if you're always letting them stomp on your boundaries, then you've taught them that your boundaries don't mean anything. And so, like, for example, if they say they're going to meet you at a certain time and they don't, and you say, hey, it's just a boundary of mine. If you say you're going to meet me, please meet me. And then they don't do that. And then you say, okay, well, I'll just let it go. Then you've taught them that your boundary doesn't really mean anything. But if you say, hey, remember I told you that boundary? I usually give like 3 chances. So then the 3rd chance happens and they do it. And you're like, okay, well, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just we're not compatible because I have to have that boundary. Then you've taught that person that you can't be treated that way. Best part, you move on from a person who would treat you that way, right? Let's take a look at your tarot cards. 2 of Cups. And then we will do our channeled reading. I also get the sense from the image in the mirror earlier about the ink, is that when you get involved with a connection like the one I'm describing, you dilute your own presence. You dilute your own glory. You dilute your own brilliance. Because a lot of times in these situations, the people can't hold the capacity that you hold. And that doesn't make them wrong or bad. It just means you guys are at different places. And you need someone who can hold the full capacity of you so you don't have to shrink. 10 of Cups. There's so much love here so far. 2 of Cups, 10 of Cups. I can't wait to do your channeled reading. 8 of Pentacles. You're working on some deep stuff. The Hermit. I might just be hitting that. I'm going to try to be careful. I should have put it on the other side. 8 of Cups. The High Priestess. Is this Judgment? Knight of Cups. Two of Pentacles. And Three of Pentacles. All right. Beloved, your heart is so full. You have such a huge capacity for love for the other people that you meet in your life. You've worked so hard to be the best partner, the best friend, the best family member, the best employee, whatever it is in your life. You've worked so hard to be the best that you can be and to live up to your full potential. But sometimes it feels like all that effort that you put into others is taken for granted. And when you try to walk away, you struggle. And you find yourself alone so much, ruminating on why someone would treat you the way that they're treating you, or what you can do better to help them see more clearly so that your love can bloom and blossom more. But beloved, you are being called now to dig into the deepest levels of your soul, and with unbiased eyes and without judgment, to discern what is true love and what is behavioral patterns. And from this, you'll learn to move forward slowly, having mind-heart coherence, balancing the two together, and finding a way to work within yourself with all the different pieces of you to form a coherent vision of who you are, what you want, and to be focused on that rather than on the fantasy of what could be with another person. You're being called to hold your lantern up in authenticity, to hold your lantern up in sincere love for yourself. Because with that comes a brightness and a vibration that will attract the right person for you if you're looking for reciprocal love from another person. And in the past, beloved, you have given chance after chance after chance, seeing the best in people, thinking that this time they're telling the truth. But beloved, that person that you're meeting in love is yourself. And when you meet yourself in love, suddenly the door opens for someone who's going to meet you in love as you are. And because you're practicing healthy detachment from the results of a situation, you can move through the energy of the people who are not aligned with you much more quickly. You're not going to get caught up for days, weeks, months, or years in the energy of the wrong person, because you're not dreaming of who they could be, but you're seeing them with a clear eye of discernment. And you know quickly whether they meet your standard or not. Love is in your future, beloved. It flows to us, through us, from the ecstatic divine. It flows from yourself to yourself. And when you embody that and you're able to go through that inner journey and hold your lantern, hold your light so brightly and authentically, the right people are going to flock to you like a flock of crows. The right people are going to flock to you. And you only need the one, right? The right one. But if your energy is still muddy, if you're still in this energy of lack, of feeling like you need someone else to complete you, you're only going to attract other people who want to exploit your need for another person. instead of attracting the person who is up to the standard of being able to hold your wholeness like the treasure that it is. And that, beloved, with the 10 of Cups and the 2 of Cups here prominent in your spread, is shown to be something that's coming to you as soon as you make this click, as soon as you make this switch. It's a journey to love yourself if you've spent your life not giving yourself the love you deserve. But you're being invited to do that now. And when you get into that loving space with yourself, the other love that comes afterwards will be such a beautiful surprise, and it'll make so much more sense for you then. It's coming, beloved. In fact, it's already there. The love is already there. You just have to crack it open. Well, beloveds, thank you for joining me this evening. I hope this resonated with you, and I hope that you will comment below if this does resonate for you. Love is so sensitive of a topic. It's so tender. And for you to stay here through this whole thing shows your bravery. And Rumi says, your grief for what you have lost holds a mirror to where you are bravely working. Well, beloved, you are working so bravely. So thank you for being here. And I'll see you next week.